Kamasutra. I know this word makes a lot of people uncomfortable, particularly when a woman says it. Some might even be thinking of skipping this video, but avoiding the topic of feeling uncomfortable will not change the fact that we misunderstood or never really tried to understand this amazing book written by our ancestors.
Have you heard about Kamasutra?
See, Kamasutra positions are more like yoga poses, you know.
No, I know that it's a sex book, right? Yeah, the Indians invented it. Yeah.
The condom of the book.
The book. Obviously the book.
The Kamasutra is the most popular Indian book worldwide. It's actually more popular than Bhagavad Gita itself. However, it's also one of the most misinterpreted books often used by the West to demean Indian society.
Isn't that the old Indian textbook of sex?
The Indian sex thing.
So I just actually dislocated my knee doing some Kamasutra last week.
It's often considered as merely an ancient book which talks about various sexual positions or as a book full of strange fantasies written by some dog people in India. But that is not the whole truth. First, we need to understand how this Indian book became popular as erotica, as sexual fantasy book in the Western countries. This particular misinterpretation started during the British period and continued for generations after with their perfect marketing strategies. In the late 19th century, the British colonialists hired scholars to translate Indian history and its culture in a way that could make the native people lose faith in their culture. And this is something they did not just with India, but also with all other places they colonized. I know it's a very big accusation, but we have enough evidence for this. Do you know Max Muller? Those who are into history and literature cannot not know Max Muller. He is that important. He translated a lot of Indian scriptures to English. In fact, most of the versions, old versions we are studying today, are done by Max Muller. He literally said, India has been conquered once, but India must be conquered again, and that second conquest should be a conquest by education. He also said a new national literature may spring up impregnated with Western ideas, and that's what exactly has been done to Kamasutra as well. When the British encountered Indian culture, they viewed it through their own Victorian eyes, which had absurd moral codes and a regressive attitude towards sexuality. So for them, the Kamasutra's erotic content was both fascinating and a taboo at the same time. The first major English translation of Kamasutra was done in 1883 by Sir Richard Francis Burton, who was a British explorer interested in the sexual customs of different cultures across the world. Even though his work brought the Western attention to the Kamasutra, he only highlighted the sexual aspects of the book, which obviously led to the mischaracterization of Kamasutra. So basically, he was someone who was exploring the sexual customs of various cultures. So obviously, he would only focus on the sexual content and ignore all other aspects. But that doesn't mean that we, the people of India, where Kamasutra is primarily written, should subscribe to their misinterpreted Western idea. The publishing industry in the 20th century played a very big part in the misinterpretation. They mainly marketed the book specifically for its erotic content, often with vulgar covers and titles, and the sad part is it did work well. And during the sexual revolution that happened in the West in the 1960s and 70s, the Western culture adopted Kamasutra as a symbol of their liberated sexual practices. However, that adaptation was not at all accurate. They completely ignored the part where Kamasutra talks about personal development, social harmony, and many other things, and simply reduced it to a manual for sexual techniques. Now Kamasutra is literally being considered as a book version of pornography. That's why many of us feel uncomfortable even to say the word Kamasutra in public. But what Kamasutra is originally about? The Kamasutra is a very deep and comprehensive work that talks about the philosophical aspects of love, life, and human relationship. It was written during a time when Indian society was rich with philosophical, spiritual, and artistic exploration. Even though it's famously known that Vatsyayana wrote Kamasutra, he mentioned that he only composed the book. According to Kamasutra, this is the story on the origins of the book. God created men and women and gave them rules to live by regarding dharma, that is righteousness, artha, that is prosperity, and kama, that is pleasure. And these rules were written in detail, consisting 1,00,000 chapters. Then Swayambhu wrote the rules about dharma, Brihaspati compiled about artha, and Nandi, the follower of Lord Shiva, explained the rules about karma in 1000 chapters. And Nandi's work on karma was then shortened by Shvetaketu into 500 chapters. This was further reduced to 150 chapters by Babravya. These 150 chapters were organized into 7 parts. Number 1 Sadara, number 2 Samra, number 3 Kanya Samra, number 4 Bharyatikarika, number 5 Paraa, number 6 Vaisika, number 7 Aupamishadika. These 7 chapters were written by different authors and Babravya's original work was way too long. So Vatsayana created a smaller version. He composed the small book as a summary of the works of the other authors. To put it in a simple way, Kamasutra says that life should be lived by achieving 3 main goals. Number 1, Dharma, which is righteousness or moral duty. Number 2, Artha, prosperity and wealth. Number 3, Kama, that is love and pleasure. So Kamasutra is not just about karma, it teaches us to live a life of dharma with moral values, guides us on managing household affairs and achieving financial independence, and finally clearly explains karma, saying it goes beyond physical pleasure. For example, part 1 Sadharana. This part begins by outlining the 3 main goals of life, Dharma, Artha and Kama, and Vatsayana argues that Kama is as important as Dharma and Artha and should be pursued in a balanced way, and sexual pleasure is portrayed as a sacred and important part of life. The Kama Sutra teaches how to respectfully approach the sexual life and how to value the emotional and physical needs of both the partners equally. The text is very clear about the importance of mutual consent and respect in a relationship, and it clearly rejects any act by force and emphasizes that both partners should find satisfaction and happiness in their union. And Vatsayana stresses that pleasure should not be pursued at the expense of others' well-being. If men can understand this one sentence, we will not have any kind of abuse in the world. Part 2 Samra Yogika. This part is the most well-known and often misunderstood section of the Kama Sutra. It does deal with the various aspects of sexual relations, but it's definitely much more than just a manual for sexual positions. Only 20% of the book talks about positions, but unfortunately people highlighted only that part as the whole book. This part talks about how different men and women are physically and how to achieve sexual compatibility and mutual satisfaction, and explains different kinds of caresses, embraces and kisses and how they contribute to intimacy. It does explain about a number of positions but also emphasizes the importance of mutual consent, pleasure and emotional connection. Part 3 and 4 of Kama Sutra are known for their progressive view on the role of women. It talks about the importance of women's education and their active participation in the social and cultural life. Women are portrayed as individuals with their own desires, rights and responsibilities, and the text tells you how to choose your partner wisely, manage household efficiently and engage in artistic and intellectual pursuits. Part 3 Kanya Samra. This part focuses on finding and marrying a suitable partner. It gives you advice on courtship, engagement and marriage ceremonies and explains about the criteria for selecting a wife, like what are the factors that should be considered, family background, education and her personal qualities, and if you do like a woman, how do you impress her and how do you get the girl's family approval. Everything is explained. And it also talks about different types of marriages in the ancient Indian society, including arranged marriages and love marriages. Part 4 Bharyatikarika. Now that you got married, how do you handle the married life? What are the responsibilities of husband and wife? This part teaches you about that. It gives you tips for maintaining a loving and respectful relationship between the couples. Not just that, it also teaches you how to manage your finances, servants, other household matters, everything in detail. Part 5 Paratarika. This part addresses sensitive issues like extramarital affairs. While acknowledging such relationship, it also gives you guidelines to handle it responsibility while maintaining the respect and dignity of all the people involved. It explains about under what situation a person will seek an extramarital affair, and if you are in that situation, what you should be doing, minding the potential danger and the social consequences. Part 6 Vaisika. This section focuses on courtesans, what a unique place in the ancient Indian society. What are the kind of qualities and skill one should have to become a successful courtesan? How do you attract and maintain your clients? How do you balance multiple relationships with people? How do you manage your earnings? How do you achieve financial stability as a courtesan? Everything is explained in detail. This section is particularly notable for its progressive views. Courtesans who are highly educated and skilled in the arts played a very significant role in the social and cultural life of ancient India. So the Kamasutra talks about their skills, their status and the respect they deserve, unlike the Western notion that merely reduce them to objects of lust. Part 7, Aupamashatika. This final part of Kamasutra talks about the 64 arts a person should master to enhance his personal charming. These arts includes music, dance, painting, cooking, gardening, art of conversation, everything is explained in detail. So to put it simply, the Kamasutra is a guide to a whole human development, highlighting the importance of all aspects of life, including the sexual context. So Kamasutra is not just a weird fantasized sex book, it tells you how to communicate with your partner, it tells you how to maintain your boundaries with your partner, it tells you how to resolve your conflicts with your partner. It's like a A to Z guidebook for the married couples. First, how do you get into a relationship, then how do you handle that relationship, how do you take it to marriage, then how do you handle your married life, your finances, your household affairs, your sex life, how do you become a better person in the society. Everything is explained in detail. So it's high time we agree Kamasutra is far more than just a fantasized sex book. Today, 1 in every 8 people is suffering from mental health issues. Out of these, majority are aged between 16 to 35. Don't you think if we have this guide, our life would be much better and easier? And even Vatsyayana talks about how sexual satisfaction is closely linked with emotional and mental well-being of a person. And above all, even though Kamasutra celebrates the pursuit of pleasure, it equally emphasizes the responsibility and ethics one should have in the society. It clearly tells us that the enjoyment of karma should not come at the expense of dharma. If we can understand this one line, the world would be a much better place.